Well, welcome to the Executive Advisory Spot of Tea. Today's topic is going to be motivation, especially in today's climate and working from home. I thought it was a good topic to focus on. I love this picture and I hate this picture, but it's basically, I picked it because when I joined the military, I was trying to decide which force I was going to go into. I was going to go to the Air Force, the Marines. And I told my brother I wanted to join the one that's going to make me work the hardest and be the most disciplined. And he kind of looked at me like I was nuts. Like, well, if you really want to be disciplined, run up a hill because you want to do it, not because someone's yelling at you. And, so I joined the Air Force, which, people can make their own comments on whether that was discipline or not. But what I think of that in terms of working from home, because a lot of the clients that we're working with, and I know even just myself and all of us are challenged with this idea of how do we stay motivated and disciplined when our regular schedules disrupted and there's not a manager sitting, down the hall, and we've still got to stay focused. And so, with our top 5 tips, I know this is a big one for Jerry, and I love your viewpoint on this.
Well, thank you. But I think it just comes from that idea of we sometimes get caught up, I think personally, and what I've been hearing from clients as well, caught up in everybody else's purpose and caught up in what are they trying to make happen, which is valid. I mean, we need that information, but we sometimes stop and say, but what am I really trying to, pat myself on the back for at the end of the day? I was just talking to a young mom yesterday, and the amount she was beating herself up was, and when she listed everything she got done with her 3 boys, I'm like, you're lucky you're still standing. Like, why isn't that just getting you wired up? And it was this whole perspective thing of what we think we're supposed to be versus, well, wait, who am I? How do I define myself? What's most critical to me today? So anyway, that's it. It's definitely coming home for a lot of folks right now, especially as we spend more and more days in the work from home world.
Yeah, and I think that's so critical. What you just talked about, though, is how do you create it's not just you on the job anymore. It's you and your family, or maybe you're coming home and you're by yourself, whatever your situation is. And how do you create that supportive structure, whether that's I have to put a schedule together for myself so that I don't just sit there and binge watch and, shop online all day. Not saying that that's what I'm doing, but also the family members, and that there's some sort of routine. And I think the part of calling out your purpose and also having a daily ritual that supports you taking steps towards that, even if you can't guarantee it. But it's the people at home that I think can make or break you sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But not if you're Veronica.
Yes, I agree. I think for me, it's like once we embrace the shock of the new norm, it was how do I get my crew on board? And I know I had to become a leader, because I feel like in needs like that, once the chaos starts to settle, people tend to want to turn to somebody to lead them. And so I felt like I needed to come up with a plan. I needed to make sure that everybody's experiencing it different. I have a household full of children, so everybody was going to be in different levels. I needed to make sure I was clear. I needed to be able to check in with them to make sure that we were all on the same page. And it was okay that one of them wasn't going to experience the same thing as the other person. So I know I needed to just continue to just take it day by day. I knew that one day my plan would have worked, and the next day we had to, re-sketch a new one to go along with that.
Yeah. It's not easy. And I think probably one of the things that get in the way is even just what we're saying to ourselves. Jerry talked a little bit about that at the beginning, but I think, I hear Joe talk about it all the time with us.
Yeah, in the world of communication, it's kind of interesting. People talk about interpersonal communication, which is communication between people. But there's also a concept called intrapersonal, which is that internal dialogue, or that self-talk that goes on in your head. Maybe one of the best ways to describe it, talk about a gentleman I used to work with a number of years ago. Very, very smart, but had a difficult time getting up in front of an audience and presenting in a clear, coherent manner. And sure enough, I got to watch him, and he was not great, we'll say. So at the end of this, I'm supposed to provide him feedback on these things that I see. And before I even started with my feedback, I asked him, what did you think? He said, well, I guess I thought it kind of sucked. I said, well, I'm not going to argue with you, but I was really curious. What were you thinking before you got up there? And so he pauses a second, he thinks about it, and he comes back and he says, I guess I was just thinking, I hope I got through it. I said, well, in that case, you actually did a pretty good job. He was surprised by this. I said, now don't get me wrong. If you were trying to be persuasive, informative, engaging, credible, no, you did not accomplish that. But it was fascinating to see him talk through, yeah, I just wanted to get through it. And as a result, that's exactly the way his self-talk ended up coming out. So one of the questions to ask, especially in a time like this, is what is that internal motivation? What is that self-talk that I've got? Do I constantly tell myself, this is terrible and this is rough and this is horrible? Oh my God, how am I going to get through this? Or do I just pick at least a couple of things that I've got influence over and start to forge ahead?
I completely agree with that. I mean, usually we tend to focus on the negative. We self-sabotage ourselves by, I did this wrong, I did that wrong, I didn't do this. And I think especially in this time, we need to focus on the things that we do well. Perhaps we have 10 things on our to-do list, but even if it's 2 things that you accomplished while homeschooling and everything else that we got going on at home, acknowledge those small little milestones and then set new goals for the next day.
Absolutely.
I know it's such a basic thing that I can even look at these top 5. And first of all, I want to call out the acronym WFH, which is so close to WTF. WTF is close to home right now. And these tips aren't necessarily rocket science, but I think what's hard is actually the motivation to make sure that you do those basic tried and true things. And, we're hoping that this helped whoever got a chance to listen to it. Feel free to forward this on to anyone that you think might find this useful. We are going to be putting out some more like these, and feel free to reach out and ask for input on support videos that you'd like to see, or even just reach out to us, and we're here to help. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.
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 Thank you.